Parents of Reddit, why are you disappointed in your adult child? He is 24 years old and has a full-blown addiction that started in the last 6 months. He was fired from the job he got at 18 because he was high and manic. Sidebar: his manager was the one that introduced him to M. Since then he has dedicated his time to either finding or using M. He has been arrested 3 times, spent 30 days in jail and continues to use even though he is on probation. He is angry because we will not allow him to live with us while he is using. He is now homeless. He broke into our house and stole some of his father's sports memorabilia to support his habit. Some of it is not replaceable and very sentimental. He is a shell of the human we knew 6 months ago, both figurative and literally. He cannot hold a normal conversation and is constantly twitching. We have offered to get him help, but he is convinced that the drugs have set him free and we all are living in a delusional world where we have to work and conform to society. It is killing us. On the other hand, our daughter, 23, just graduated college in June with a paralegal degree and has decided to go to law school. She is afraid to celebrate her success because she doesn't want to make him feel bad or upset him. But frick him for taking that away from her. Pathological liar. 33 years old and he would rather walk 10 miles to tell a lie than to stand still and tell the truth. His ex-wives all found out the same thing. My son is 25 and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at around 15 years old, maybe younger. After he became too old and too big for me to manage his meds, he refused to take them and his life has been a roller coaster of disasters ever since. Between prison time, juvie and adult, bad decisions, suicidal ideation, drug use, fathering 2 children he doesn't see, same mom, and insisting on making up reasons to not speak to Emmy. I'm done. Because honestly there's nothing I can do for him. At this point I'm just waiting to get a phone call on where I need to go to identify the body. As someone with a bipolar, I feel for you. He went off his meds once for almost 2 months and it was the scariest and most painful time in my life. I can't imagine what you feel. Please accept a hug from a stranger. Thanks for the gold. It's my first. He's 20 and refuses to go to college or get a job. He lives with his mom. So all I can do is talk to him about it. I fear for his future. Like, we, his parents, aren't immortal and he doesn't seem to have self-preservation skills. I'm not disappointed in my 18-year-old, but I sure wish I knew how to activate him. He graduated in May, has no desire to go to college and no real aspirations at all. He's pretty much been in his room on his phone since. He's struggled for many years with anxiety, which we're treating, and I know a lot of things are difficult for him, but man, I wish I knew how to get him excited about something, anything, whether it's a job or a hobby or a plan or whatever. My son is 24 and, by some standards, a disappointment. He has a degree and no job. He struggles with motivation, and his sleep patterns are terrible. I don't think he has a plan to move forward with his life. Earlier in the year, my husband, his dad, was diagnosed with cancer. I thank God every day for my slacker son. He is so kind. Every time he makes dinner because I know you must be tired or comes and gives me a hug when I get home from work makes it possible for me to keep going. It sounds like he's got a bit of depression. I'd keep an eye out and see what you can do. I may be wrong but it's worth confirming or otherwise. He's 42, lives with his dad, is 6 years into a 2-year degree, and has gone through 4 decent cars in the last 6 months. His dad bought the cars and he trashed them. He's also threatened physical abuse to his dad. He disowned his older sister over a political argument on Facebook. She said, "I'm leaving this discussion before we say things we'll regret." And he tried to forbid it, saying if she left she was disrespecting him and was no longer related to him. I think at one point someone got to figure it out that he doesn't know how to drive. Really, it's like, just drive normally and don't hit anything. 16-year-old kids can do it. I'm disappointed in my son because he is too much like me. He's a solid introvert who is afraid to ask for help and doesn't want to bother people, even with very legitimate requests. He is an expert procrastinator. I remember being that age and being so much like that. I'm not sure how I got through university, but I've been a successful engineer for 30 years, so I've still got a lot of hope for him. Also, both my kids vape smoke. We've been anti-smokers for all our adult lives and I'm sad to see them choose to do something negative like that. They both want to quit, but it's a tough road. For those who don't have disappointing adult children, I can always be yours. Same. I'll call to beg for money and everything. He is 31 and has been a hardcore addict, MH, since age 15. He has put us through heck. I'm disappointed and we're estranged, but he is still my son and I love him. Something about your comment resonated with me a lot and has me tearing up over here. I'm lucky to have a great relationship with my parents but want to send you an internet hug. 3. My ex-husband was the son that my parents wanted their actual son to be. So they'll P that my brother isn't like him and they'll P that I divorced him. Double whammy. Never mind that we just fundamentally did not work as a couple. They basically see it as me stealing away their chance at having the perfect child in a son-in-law. Oh well. I cannot imagine how freaking annoying it must be to constantly be asked why you broke it off with someone. Click because, for some reason, I was looking to hate myself more. Found fewer reasons for that. Surprisingly, well played, Reddit. Same. I have been having issues feeling that I have disappointed my parents. This thread gave me a lot of perspective and made me feel that I'm not all that much of a screw up yet. He's a deadbeat dad for his first daughter, which means I can't see my first granddaughter anymore. Has been in and out of jail since the age of 11. Is a multiple offense convicted felon as an adult who will steal from anyone, myself and his mother included, and has threatened to have most of his family members killed. He is known to carry stolen firearms and frequently uses his brother's name to try to avoid being caught. He's a drug addict, living with a drug addicted girl, and they have now had 2 more children together, both of whom suffer from the effects of their parents' drug addictions. Fetal drug syndrome. My mum's disappointed that I left a £33,000 a year job for a £28,000 job because I had 2 mental breakdowns. Even though everything is now perfect, sometimes we just have to get on with it. Your mental health is worth way more than £5k a year. As long as you have enough to get by, you made the right call. I'm still not sure what my parents think of me. I was the promised child who got 99th percentile on aptitude tests in kindergarten, aced tests, memorized the presidents by age 4, at my dad's insistence, and ended up just blundering my way through school because what started as a bad habit of not doing homework eventually amalgamated into depression-driven apathy about education. I dropped out of college and I've spent more of my time in therapy learning how to be a good person and be happy, which does make my mom happy, but I can feel my entire extended family's disappointment in me that I chose to work an 8-5 job and just live in an apartment with my cat. On the bright side, I'm more confident in my life choices than I ever have been and wouldn't trade the positive mindset I've been working so hard on for any amount of work discipline. OHH, good timing. I have to be semi-vague but hopefully you get the gist. My middle daughter is 19 but we've had issues her entire life. I strongly suspect BPD narcissism. Currently her infant child has been removed from her care by CPS for multiple reasons, notably her erratic behavior she showed and continues to show and also heavy marijuana use. We suspect other drugs at play but have zero proof. Instead of cooperating to get her child back, she has fought kicking and screaming every step of the way, making it much harder than necessary. At the same time blaming her mother and vilifying her to the point that she has lied to CPS in an attempt to have them remove her 4-year-old sister from her mother's care. Calling old friends and family, giving them a hugely false story in an attempt to alienate her mother and have zero friends and help. It's a giant mess she's created and refuses to take any blame or acknowledge that she's the issue at all. The weed could be making it worse, as I learned a while back in Reddit. Psychosis and weed don't mix. I'm in the middle of becoming estranged from my parents. They don't approve of how I'm raising my sons, and they can't even bring themselves to be around them. Our last attempt at a family vacation left my sisters yelling at my parents, and then storming off. Their complaint is that I don't have any boundaries for the kids. I do have boundaries, they just aren't the same as my dad had when I was growing up. He was a hardest with major anger issues. He threw me up a stairwell once when I left my boots behind at a park. Due to living in that household, I'm attempting to let my kids grow up knowing that making mistakes is part of life. You just have to learn from it. In any event, My children are monsters and he can't get over that, so I'm about to cut him and my stepmom out of our lives. Hits her husband, calls him worthless and leaves him alone with the baby for days without telling him she's going anywhere. He will come home from work and she's gone for 3 days in a 5-star hotel with a spa treatment. It's awful. My son always viewed me only as a milking cow. He doesn't care about anything but his own happiness and even refuses to talk to me. If it's still like this when he turns 2, I'm done with the entire affair. I like this one. Made me smile. My mom held getting a degree as one of the pinnacle achievements you can do because it was such a big deal to her going back to school and getting her degree in her 40s. As someone who works in IT, I dropped out about a year into school and haven't looked back. That was 10 years ago. I hid that I dropped out for many years before I actually told her. She was disappointed, but in my opinion, the astronomical cost of a degree does not have a good ROI, and in IT, I've worked up to a very high salary level without one. Certifications, mentors, learning on the job and at home. To me, a 4-year degree doesn't make much logical sense in a fast-moving field like this one. My 19-year-old daughter failed out in her first semester of college. Not a big deal. Sometimes freshmen get overwhelmed and don't do so hot in their classes. My daughter, however, just decided to not show up to the classes that weren't theater related. So she failed math and English, which she could have aced. Now, had she owned up to this, there would have been little issue. Lesson learned. Do better on probation and pass the classes next semester. What she did do was just not register for classes for the next semester and try her luck at living in the dorms, illegally. Somehow it took the college 3 months to catch up with her. She finally fessed up, in March. By that time, she had been trespassing at the college for those 3 months. We had to beg the college to not throw her into prison. We were literally on the phone with college officials for an hour begging them to just let her come home. She screwed up, but she's learned her lesson. Luckily, if you can call it that, her grandmother rushed to her rescue and paid off her outstanding balance on her bill. $6,000 for the 3 months she lived on campus, boarding and food card. Her grandmother, my mom, then proceeded to tell my daughter she never had to return to us. We were evil people and she would protect her from the likes of us. My daughter, who used to call me every night and called me anytime she had problems, cut all ties with us because facing her responsibilities wasn't a requirement anymore. We tried calling her, tried telling her we weren't angry and to just come home. Nothing doing. We would have been angry, but we would have worked it out. Instead, we became the bad guys in her fairy tale, and for the past 5 months she's gone on shopping sprees, goofed off and had the time of her life. I've seen her twice since it all happened. Both times she treated me like an evil monster. Both times I went home in tears, despising my mother more and more. My daughter is going back to school tomorrow like nothing ever happened. My other mom is paying for it. You might be thinking, be grateful she's footing the bill. The problem with that is my oldest daughter has worked her butt off to get her degree, and my mom refused to help her because she's bisexual. That she's doing this to get back at her for embarrassing her in front of her church. I refused to let the younger daughter get help from her because of this in the past, so my younger daughter also stabbed her older sister in the back by doing this. I'm so very disappointed in the entitled brat my daughter has become, and if I ever see my of a mother again, I'll wring her fat neck, right in front of all those Christians in her church. Not mine but my brother's. My nephews are mama's boys who are in their late 20s early 30s and still live at home. They went away to college and couldn't hack it for more than a year or 2 before moving back home. Any girl they date has to have mommy's approval or they dump her. One girl was of the wrong religion and their mom, my sil, wouldn't permit her in the house. I'm in my 30s and unmarried. My mum worries every time I take solo holidays. I'm sure she wishes I had a husband to go along. My son is 23. He is fat, unmotivated, and lazy. He's approaching his 6th year of university and it looks like he still has 2-3 more years to go. He is working at a dead-end job with no benefits and refuses to leave. He is constantly spending all his time and money on video games and drugs. Every time I see him at home, he's either on his computer playing games, on the couch watching TV eating Cheetos, or high as a kite. He is literally wasting his life away, but it seems like he doesn't realize how bad it is getting. He doesn't have much friends. only a few druggies, and has never been in a relationship. I think he's an incel. It worries me that if he keeps this up, he'll end up a sad, pathetic loser. I have tried many times to have him clean up his life, but he doesn't listen. I am disappointed. My aunt and I are very close. I'm like her pseudo daughter after my mom and I became distant. Anti-vax mom. I can answer for her and her biological children. Her daughter is 21, lives with a bunch of druggies and sells pot out of their rented home. The police regularly show up due to the persistent smoke clouds surrounding the house. She works a full-time job at some meat processing facility, but she's got no drive and doesn't really know how money works. She's got her car impounded after she got arrested for possession. The impound lot sold her car after she couldn't pay. My aunt paid for a brand new car and she's supposed to be paying her back every week, but my aunt has never seen a cent. She owes her $27,000 in car payments, and that is not including bail money, at least 50 grand. My aunt is an electrical engineer and makes decent money, but she will be in debt for the rest of her life because of her daughter's mistakes. I'm a welder, and I've been secretly saving 50% of my paycheck every month to be able to pay off her debts for her. I have so much hope that her daughter will come around. Hey, that's awesome of you to do that though. It sucks to hear about her daughter, but at least you guys have a solid relationship and she appreciates you. I want to give a reverse perspective. I have a high school age boy, one of 3 kids, who sometimes jokes that he's disappointing us and that he's kind of a loser, and I feel so awful when he says things like that. If you feel like that, I want you to know that for the overwhelming majority of you, your parents love you and care about you and are not disappointed in you at all. They just want you to see all the goodness and possibilities in yourself that they see, so that you can be the happiest version of yourself that you can be. You don't need to be some kind of super achiever. You just need to find something, or things, that spark some kind of joy for you. I'm not. Life is hard and she had dealt with a lot. She may not be fully independent yet, but she's working on it. I see her effort and I'm proud of her for it. Maybe I could be disappointed she didn't do more stupid stuff when she was young, but I'm just glad she didn't end up like me. ETA, I'm not in a bad place now, but I'm sure as heck lucky to have gotten here and not ended up dead in a ditch somewhere. If my mom was on Reddit, this is what I imagine her saying about me. I never got in trouble or did stupid stuff growing up, but the past couple years have been rough. But she has been there every day for me. Just know that your daughter appreciates you being there for her and supporting her. I feel petty after reading others' posts. I've got a 20-year-old son who is smart, kind, and very academically motivated but is a slob. I'm talking about gross stuff like toenails left on his desk, wads of hair stuck to the shower wall. He doesn't shower for days, and his room smells like there is a dead prostitute under the heaping mounds of dirty laundry. I raised him, so I guess ultimately the onus is on me. Somewhere in the world, it's some kid who secretly knows his parents' Reddit handle and is having the most emotional devastation. I took an easy job. They had high expectations and pushed hard for me to be the best of the best at everything I can, but won't if I'm not forced. Having no work-related pressure or stress is much nicer for me, but I'm somewhat poor and relatively uninfluential. Disappointed does not even begin to cover it. I feel like I've lost my daughter this year. She's been dating a guy for about 3 years, off and on. Well, early this year they broke up. She started seeing someone new and fell head over heels for him, and my wife and I quickly fell in love with him too. Things were going great. Then the ex started whispering in her ear again. Next thing you know, she feels like God is telling her something is wrong. The ex likes to use religion to manipulate her. Before you know it, her and the new guy break up. Me, my wife, and the new guy are all devastated. She goes back to the manipulative little dong. All her friends stop hanging out with her because none of them can stand dong either. It seems she becomes super religious when she's with him. I hate that I can't talk to her and feel like I've lost her because of this relationship she's addicted to, where she is constantly mistreated and made to feel like the bad guy. TLDR. I hate that I can't talk to her and feel like I've lost her because of this relationship she's addicted to, where she is constantly mistreated and made to feel like the bad guy and won't listen to anybody about. I feel all you guys' pain. My son is 32. He is just undermotivated, no matter how hard I try, but I know there is a fine line between motivating and being so hard on him he goes the exact opposite way. I hope he will. I'm a widow and we live together. Always have. He is underemployed and loves the video games. Sadly, the apple didn't fall too far from the lazy tree. I have had a good job for 30 years and I hope he can find a way. He has finally started to feel the pinch of my one main income and how it limits our lives. He is trying and I just have to support him and give him positive reinforcement until he gets to a good place. Neither one of us dates and prefer to stay home and partake in relaxation. But I would maybe like to have a grandbaby one day. But then some days figure why bring a kid into this world. Good luck to us all. He isn't even looking for a job or to get out of the house. He just eats my food without paying a penny and watches TV or plays all day. 2-year-olds are so entitled. You guys ever heard of Rich Bornholmer? He went on a spree killing in Pittsburgh in 2000 targeting Jews and immigrants. Ironically, he was a lawyer who specialized in cases of fighting illegal immigration. His parents would come into the store I worked about once a week. They were both disturbingly quiet people. Very soft spoken and they both always looked down at the ground when they would speak with anyone. I can't imagine what it's like to be Richard's parents. I feel terrible that their child is a psychopath and it's public knowledge. This thread just sent me spiraling down the depression rabbit hole and makes me never want to show up to another family function again. Sincerely, someone else's disappointment. Not a parent but the child. My parents are disappointed in me because I basically failed out of college UK after demonstrating time and time again that I lack the direction, drive, foresight, and discipline to do well on my A-levels. My results came back today, Ed, and they're seriously off. We'll be having a long discussion on my plan going forwards, but I can tell they've lost their faith in me. I can't blame them. I don't have faith in me either. I can elaborate if anyone cares, but I think I'll leave it here for now. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.